The average American says they plan to retire at 66. They actually retire at 61. That's a 5-year gap they didn't choose, didn't plan for, and couldn't reverse, driven not by lifestyle decisions, but by layoffs, health crises, and corporate restructuring. According to the EBRI's 2026 survey, 76% of all unplanned early retirements were caused by circumstances entirely outside the individual's control. 76%. Not bad decisions, not failure to save, structural ambush. And here's what makes 52 the specific number I'm about to spend the next 20 minutes on. There are 3 compounding forces that align simultaneously at this age, and only at this age, that give you a genuine shot at building a financial buffer against that ambush before the window closes. 2 people, both 52, both with $200,000 saved, both planning to retire at 67. One starts maximizing contributions now, the other waits 6 years. The difference in their portfolio at 67 isn't $195,000 of missed deposits. It's $428,000. That is what time does to money. When you let it compound, here's the thesis, and I want to be direct about it. The standard retirement advice: max your 401k, diversify, trust the 4% rule, retire at 65, was designed around a version of the world that no longer exists. The 4% rule was invented in 1994, the same year the internet was still mostly email, and a garage band from Seattle was the biggest thing in music. Your pre-Medicare healthcare costs weren't $17,000 a year then. The Secure 2X super catch-up contribution provision didn't exist. The ACA marketplace subsidies that expired at the end of 2025 weren't a factor. The structural data on involuntary separations in the early 50s hadn't been compiled yet. The advice calcified. The world kept moving. What I'm going to walk you through today is why 52 is a financial inflection point, not a motivational milestone. This isn't about willpower or discipline or the kind of content that ends with believe in yourself and compound your habits. This is about orbital mechanics. I spent over 10 years running my own business, surrounded by accountants and tax lawyers who taught me how money actually moves, not in theory, not in a financial planning textbook, but in reality, through tax filings and corporate structures and the slow grind of building wealth, while also watching what happens to people who run out of runway. I have multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars invested. I have skin in the game, not just an opinion. And what I've seen consistently is that the people who changed their retirement outcome in their 50s did so by understanding one thing early: you are not saving for retirement. You are racing a clock against a forced exit you cannot predict. Let me show you why. Think about how NASA plans a launch window. They don't choose it because it's convenient. They choose it because the gravitational alignment of planets, the orbital mechanics, the available thrust relative to payload mass, all of those variables converge to create a specific interval where the same destination requires the least fuel. Outside that window, you can still reach the destination, but it costs more, takes longer, or sometimes the trajectory simply doesn't close. 52 is your launch window. The same destination, genuine financial independence at 65 or 67, costs dramatically less fuel if you launch from here. You still have 15 years of compounding runway before full retirement age. You're still on the right side of the forced exit distribution. And you are sitting inside a set of tax code provisions that have been quietly, significantly upgraded in the last 2 years, and that most people your age don't know about yet. Miss this window, and you're not disqualified. But you're launching from a worse angle with heavier gravity. And in retirement planning, a worse angle doesn't show up as a philosophical setback. It shows up as monthly income. Less of it. For decades. The window is open until it isn't. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you the specific contribution math that makes 52 a compounding machine. But first, you need to understand the structural reality that makes the clock more urgent than most retirement content admits. There's a paper from the Urban Institute published in 2018, still the most rigorous work on this specific question, called How Secure is Employment at Older Ages? It found that about 1/2 of full-time, full-year workers between 51 and 54 experience an employer-related involuntary job separation, 1 in 2. That number includes layoffs, company closures, and organizational restructuring. It doesn't include the people who got pushed out in ways that technically looked voluntary. Now, layer on the EBRI 2026 data. 41% of early retirees cited a health problem or disability as the reason they left work. Corporate changes, including downsizing, business closures, and reorganization, accounted for 35% of early retirements, making employer-driven disruption the second most common involuntary cause. Those two categories alone account for 76% of all unplanned early exits. About 5 years separates what Americans plan and what happens. Non-retirees target 66, most retire at 61. That gap is almost entirely involuntary. Let me tell you about a guy I'll call Raymond. He was a logistics manager at a mid-sized manufacturing company in the Midwest. 23 years with the same employer. He made about $90,000 a year, had roughly $230,000 in his 401k at 54. And a plan, the kind of plan most people have, which exists mostly in their head and involves getting serious about contributions once things settle down. At 56, the company was acquired. His division was restructured. He spent 7 months looking for comparable work, then took a $62,000 position because that was what the market offered him. 2 years later, a back injury ended that job too. Raymond claimed Social Security at 62, not as a strategy, as a financial necessity. That single decision made under pressure, without a buffer, without optionality, locked in a 30% permanent reduction in his monthly benefit for life. Now here's the reversal that I want you to carry through the rest of this video. You think the problem at 52 is that you haven't saved enough yet. That's the emotional problem. The real problem is time architecture. You still have 15 years at 52, 15 years of compounding, 15 years of maximum contribution windows under current law. And this is the part that matters. You are still on the right side of the forced exit distribution. The peak involuntary separation risk doesn't fully detonate until most workers are in their mid to late 50s. 52 is the last moment where you can build the buffer before the danger window opens wide. Once you're 58, 59, 60, the forced exit risk is present tense, not future tense. The window is open until it isn't. Stay with me, because the math in the next section is the part that shows you what acting right now from 52 actually looks like in dollars. And it's a little embarrassing for the conventional wisdom. Let's talk about the actual contribution mechanics, because there's something in the current tax code that became fully effective on January 1st, 2026, that most people in their early 50s either haven't internalized or genuinely don't know about. For 2026, the employee 401k elective deferral limit is $24,500. The catch-up contribution limit that generally applies for employees aged 50 and over is increased to $8,000 in 2026. That means if you are 50 or older, you can legally put away $32,500 per year in a 401k. But here's the detail that almost nobody covers adequately. Under a change made in Secure 2, a higher catch-up contribution limit applies for employees who turn 60, 61, 62, or 63. For 2026, this higher catch-up contribution limit is $11,250 instead of $8,000. Congress created a specific super catch-up for the highest risk pre-retirement window. They named it that. It's in the code. Most people in that age bracket are leaving thousands of dollars in tax advantage space unclaimed every single year. Now, the math that actually matters. 2 people, both 52, both with $200,000 saved, both targeting retirement at 67% annual return. Person A starts maximizing their 401k at $32,500 per year today. Person B waits until 58 to do the same. By 67, both people's existing $200,000 has grown for 15 years at 7%. That's roughly $552,000. The same for both of them, because they both kept their existing money invested. Here's where the paths diverge. Person A's 15 years of $32,500 annual contributions compound to approximately $817,000. Total portfolio, about $1.37 million. Person B, contributing only for 9 years instead of 15, generates roughly $389,000 from the same annual contribution. Total, approximately $940,000. The difference is $428,000. Person B contributed $195,000 less in actual deposit dollars. The additional $233,000 is the compounding penalty on the delay itself. The math punished the procrastination more than the missing deposits did. Compounding doesn't care about your plan. It cares about the years you gave it. By the way, hit subscribe if you like the content. Otherwise, YouTube's algorithm may never show you my videos again. Morningstar's 2025 retirement income research suggests that 3.9% is the highest safe starting withdrawal rate for retirees, seeking a consistent level of inflation-adjusted spending, assuming a 90% probability of having funds remaining at the end of an assumed 30-year retirement period. For a $1 million portfolio, the Morningstar safe withdrawal rate of 3.9% provides $39,000 per year in inflation-adjusted income over a 30-year retirement. On the $1.37 million portfolio, roughly $53,400 per year in safe investment income before Social Security. On the $940,000 portfolio, $36,600. A 6-year delay in starting a delay that probably felt like I'll get to this when things settle down produces a $16,800 annual income gap every year for potentially 30 years. That is $504,000 in lost retirement income from 6 years of waiting. Things don't settle down. That's not pessimism. It's the historical pattern. Here's the part that never makes it into a retirement calculator. And it's why I built something specifically designed to fill that gap. Knowing these numbers and constructing a system that actually withstands the sequence of events I just described: forced exit, healthcare bridge, Social Security timing, withdrawal strategy, those are two completely different problems. The math is the map, the system is the vehicle. I built a digital book called The Exit Code. It's an analysis of 50 years of retirement data distilled into a mathematical framework for turning "maybe someday I'll retire" into a specific defensible date. 2 things in it connect directly to what we've been talking about: the 58% rule and the buffer strategy for people who get pushed out of the workforce before their plan is funded, which, as I just showed you, happens to roughly half of all workers in their early 50s. And the dynamic withdrawal method, which replaces the rigid 4% rule with a flexible system that actually survives bad early returns. The thing Morningstar's own research identifies as the first 5 years danger zone. The whole thing is built on 50 years of actual retirement data, not theory. And it's available through the link in the description for less than a dinner out. Every year you delay that kind of clarity compounds against you, not metaphorically, mathematically. You've seen the numbers. Now, the contribution window and the compounding math are only half the picture. What happens on the other side when you start withdrawing is where retirement plans quietly die. And it starts with a rule that was invented the same year the internet was mostly email. Bill Bengen invented the 4% rule in 1994. He was a financial planner who found that an annual withdrawal rate of 4% is the amount that will see investors through retirement in any economic scenario based on historical market data. That's a legitimate result from legitimate research. The problem is what happened next. The 4% rule calcified into universal gospel without anyone seriously updating it for the world we actually live in now. Morningstar research suggests that clients retiring in 2026 could start with a withdrawal rate of 3.9% and, adjusting for inflation, continue through a 30-year retirement without running out of money. 3.9, not 4. And that's for a 30-year retirement. For a 40-year retirement, retiring at age 50 to 55, research suggests a safe withdrawal rate of 3.25 to 3.5%. Now apply those numbers to where the median American in their late 50s actually stands. The median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $185,000, far below the 1.46 million magic number. Americans say they need to retire comfortably in 2026. At 3.9%, a $185,000 portfolio generates $7,215 per year. That's $601 a month before tax. That is not a retirement income. That's a rounding error on a monthly budget. Despite this, only 42% of those aged 45 to 59 felt their retirement savings are on track, which means the majority of people in this age bracket have a quiet awareness that something is off, but they don't have the specific numbers to act on it with precision. That awareness without action gap is where retirement outcomes go to die. Here's what I want you to really sit with. The mainstream financial system hasn't failed savers through malice. It's failed them through a collective fiction that standard diversification advice, applied to whatever amount you can afford to contribute, produces adequate retirement outcomes for median earners. The 4% rule was always implicitly designed for people who had saved close to $1 million. It was dressed up as universally applicable guidance. That's not a conspiracy. That's institutional inertia. The advice worked in the 90s for the people it was designed for. Nobody updated the brochure. The magic number Americans say they need to retire comfortably in 2026 is $1.46 million. The average financial advisor's response to a client who's 53 with $185,000 saved is a pie chart, a very colorful pie chart, showing how diversified they are across 5 funds that all track the same index with slightly different expense ratios. The issue known as sequence of returns risk refers to how the timing of withdrawals, paired with stock market losses, can affect how long retirement savings last. The first 5 years of retirement are the danger zone for tapping accounts during a downturn, according to portfolio strategist Amy Arnott at Morningstar Research Services. Morningstar found that retirees who faced poor investment returns in the first 5 years of retirement and did not reduce spending were much more likely to run out of savings than retirees who had positive early returns. This is the hidden multiplier on every retirement savings gap. The 4% trap assumes you get to withdraw 4% of a stable portfolio in a predictable straight line. Real retirement doesn't work that way. Recessions don't schedule themselves for year 10 of your withdrawal phase. They arrive when they arrive. And if they arrive in year 2 or 3 and you're selling assets at depressed prices to fund living expenses, you permanently reduce the number of shares available to benefit from any future recovery. 2 investors, identical portfolios of $1 million, identical withdrawal rates of $50,000 per year. One hits a 15% market decline in the first 2 years. The other hits it in year 10, after 9 years of positive returns. The investor who faces such a decline early in retirement runs out of money far sooner than an investor who does so later. Same portfolio, same withdrawals, different sequencing, completely different outcome. That is the retirement variable nobody's selling season pitch deck mentions. This is where it gets really interesting, because the fix for sequence risk, the fix for the 4% trap, and the fix for the forced exit problem all run through the same set of decisions. And most of them need to be made before 60. Not at 65 when you're staring at the enrollment forms. Let me bring Raymond back. I introduced him earlier as a guy who got restructured at 56 and claimed Social Security at 62 under financial pressure. I want to show you the exact number that Social Security decision cost him, because this is where the subplot resolves and the stakes get concrete. If someone starts taking Social Security benefits at 62, their benefit gets cut by 30%. And if they pass away before their spouse, the surviving spouse's benefit gets cut by 35%. In contrast, Americans who wait until 70 get 24% more than the full retirement benefit. That's a 77% difference in monthly benefits between claiming at 62 and waiting until 70. If Raymond's full retirement age benefit was $2,000 a month, claiming at 62 locked him in at $1,400. Waiting until 70 would have given him $2,480. That's $1,080 a month less than he could have had every month. for the rest of his life. When comparing claiming at 62 to waiting until 70, the cumulative advantage of claiming early disappears between age 80 and 81. If Raymond lives to 85, the lifetime gap is over $60,000 in Social Security income he doesn't receive. Not because he didn't earn it, because he had no financial runway to wait. Now here's the invisible bill that converts this from unfortunate to genuinely destabilizing. At the end of 2025, the enhanced premium tax credits that had lowered ACA premiums since 2021 expired and were not renewed for 2026. For early retirees, the subsidy cliff at 400% of the federal poverty level is back. So anyone earning above roughly $62,600 as a single person in 2026 pays full price for marketplace coverage, which can exceed $1,500 a month at age 62 in some rating areas. A 64-year-old nearing the Medicare start age of 65 could see their annual costs more than triple from $5,328 to $16,500, an annual increase of more than $11,000. The most at-risk segment of the population is middle-income Americans aged 50 to 64, which is specifically the population this entire video is about. A 64-year-old paying $16,500 a year for health insurance while waiting for Medicare is essentially paying a subscription fee for the right to eventually become a Medicare subscriber. The American healthcare system is what happens when you try to design a public good using airline pricing logic. Raymond is out of the workforce. He's on a permanently reduced Social Security check. He doesn't have employer insurance. He's 3 years from Medicare eligibility. And his marketplace premium has roughly tripled. Each of these outcomes is a direct consequence of having no financial buffer in place before the forced exit happened at 56. The launch window mattered. He missed it not because he was irresponsible. He was a 23-year company loyalist who thought his employer was his retirement plan. He missed it because he didn't understand the time architecture of his own financial situation. Here's how the math of Social Security timing connects back to the launch window in a way that is worth being very specific about. Waiting beyond full retirement age increases your Social Security benefit by about 8% per year until age 70. Delaying until age 70 can increase your monthly Social Security payments by up to 24% compared to claiming at full retirement age. To wait until 70, you need to be able to fund 3 to 8 years of living expenses without Social Security income. That is the bridge problem. And the only way to solve the bridge problem without liquidating your portfolio at depressed prices, without becoming your own sequence of returns risk, is to have built a significant investment buffer, ideally starting before 55. The 15-year runway from 52 is the last window where that bridge can be built with enough compounding momentum to make it financially viable without heroic annual savings rates. For a couple, the decision about when to claim Social Security can mean a difference of $200,000 to $500,000 in lifetime benefits. Yet nearly 30% of retirees claim at the earliest possible age of 62, often without understanding the long-term implications. That's not because 30% of retirees made a rational calculation that early claiming was optimal for their life expectancy. Most of them were in Raymond's situation. The financial pressure made the decision for them. The window is open. Until it isn't. Let me put specific numbers to all of this with a concrete scenario. Call him David. He's 52, earns $95,000 a year, has $215,000 in his 401k, and about $30,000 in a regular savings account. 12 years left on his mortgage. He's currently contributing about $12,000 per year to his retirement account, roughly half the standard limit. No catch-up contributions, which is the national average behavior for someone in his income bracket. His current trajectory, assuming 7% annual return and the same $12,000 yearly contribution for 15 years until 67, his existing $215,000 grows to approximately $592,000. 15 years of $12,000 contributions compound to roughly $312,000. Total at 67, approximately $904,000. Safe withdrawal at Morningstar's 3.9%, $35,260 per year from the portfolio. plus an estimated Social Security benefit of around $23,400 per year at full retirement age, based on his earnings history. Rough total retirement income, approximately $58,600 before tax. Workable, not comfortable. One unexpected healthcare bill from fragile. Now, David makes 3 specific moves, starting immediately. Move 1, he raises his 401k contribution to the legal maximum $32,500 per year. That's a $20,500 increase. Aggressive. Possible on $95,000 if the mortgage is managed and lifestyle inflation is held flat. Not easy. Required. Move 2, he maps out the healthcare bridge explicitly. He models his modified adjusted gross income from the moment he plans to stop working to 65, identifying years where he can manage taxable income to qualify for ACA marketplace subsidies. This requires coordinating IRA withdrawal sequencing, capital gains harvesting, and Roth conversion strategy, not in retirement, but now, while he still has 13 years to architect it. Move 3, he targets Social Security at 70, not 67. He builds a dedicated bridge fund from his after-tax savings and maps out 7 years of living expenses he'll need to fund between a targeted retirement at 63 and his Social Security start date of 70. New outcome at 67, his $215,000 grows to $592,000. His 15 years of $32,500 contributions compound to approximately $880,000. Total portfolio, approximately $1.47 million, safe withdrawal at 3.9%, $57,330 per year, plus his Social Security benefit taken at 24% above full retirement age, roughly $31,600 per year. Total pre-tax retirement income, approximately $89,000 per year. That's a $30,400 annual difference in retirement income from 3 decisions made at 52. No stock picking, no timing the market. No cryptocurrency sidebar. The same David, different physics. The launch window produced a genuinely different trajectory, and the gap between the 2 outcomes widens every year he waits to initiate it. Let me bring this home. In 2025, a record 4.18 million Americans turned 65, more than 11,400 people each day. That is the largest single-year wave of Americans reaching retirement age in modern history. Most of them made their critical retirement decisions years ago. The window was open. It closed. For some of them, the math worked. For too many of them, it didn't. 64% of current retirees say the United States faces a retirement crisis. The average retiree has only $288,700 in savings against a perceived need of $823,800 for a comfortable retirement. That gap, more than $500,000, is now permanent for the people currently in retirement. Compounding doesn't run backward. The window closed and the trajectory was what it was. Here are the 3 specific moves that matter at 52. And I'm going to be precise because generic advice at this stage is noise. 1, raise your 401k contribution to the legal maximum immediately for 2026. That is $32,500 per year if you're 50 or older. Not next year. Not when things settle down. This year. Every year of delay costs more in compounding interest than it does in actual missed deposits, and the compounding penalty only grows. 2, build the Social Security bridge before you need it. If your plan involves claiming at 67 or 70, map out right now how you will fund living expenses from the moment you stop working to the moment you claim. That bridge needs a specific, dedicated financial structure, a Roth conversion ladder, a cash buffer, a combination, and it needs to be built while you still have 15 years to accumulate the components. When the pressure is on, the bridge needs to already exist. 3, model your healthcare exposure before 65, right now, not at 64. The enhanced ACA subsidies expired at the end of 2025. The marketplace landscape has materially shifted. A 62-year-old who isn't actively managing their taxable income can face over $15,000 per year in health insurance premiums before any out-of-pocket costs. This is a first-order planning problem masquerading as a fine print detail. If you don't architect your income levels in the years before Medicare, the healthcare bill will do it for you, and it won't be gentle about it. None of this requires genius. None of it requires picking the right stock or predicting the next recession. It requires understanding the rules, identifying the specific levers that exist in the current tax and benefits landscape, and pulling them while the compounding calendar still gives you 15 years of runway. The launch window is open. The physics are real. The math doesn't care about your good intentions. It only cares about the years you give it. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes. And the most powerful form of lazy investing is knowing exactly when to turn the machine on full capacity. That moment is not someday. It's not when things settle down. It's the specific mathematical window that closes around you before most people realize it's closing. The data on forced exits is clear. The contribution rules are in your favor right now in ways they won't be later. The withdrawal math on your current trajectory is probably not what you think it is. And the Social Security and healthcare equations are sitting there, two of the biggest financial levers in your entire life, waiting to be either planned or panicked. You've seen the numbers. The window is